Progress.
And we're starting with Article 1, accept town reports. That's fairly general and self-explanatory, I think, but does anyone have questions or anything we need to know?
No, I'll move to recommend we approve.
Okay, so move to recommend. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. And by roll call, Dennis,
Aye.
Shelby,
Aye.
John Fryer,
Aye.
Nate,
Aye.
and Shinji, we're voting to recommend to accept town reports.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Sorry,
And,
my video may go out. Oh, and here's John Luffers. John, were you listening enough, or can we go on?
I was listening and I'm an aye.
Okay, perfect, and I'm an aye. So that passes unanimously. Article 2 are the budget adjustments. Dan, can you just quickly go over those?
Sure. So Article 2 has 4 different motions. The first one is appropriating from free cash. We have our normal snow and ice deficit for the year. It's a little bit higher than in past years, but I think you can imagine why. We're requesting $550,000 at this point. We may, if there's any other events, we may need to adjust this figure prior to town meeting, but for now, I think we're comfortable with this. We also have the option to do a transfer in May or June too, if something happens as well. For the waste disposal services, we're requesting $150,000. This is for the pay-as-you-throw program in order to purchase barrels before July 1st and to also get the bags in stores. We have to pre-order those. And then for risk management, this is for Medicare expenses for our retirees. It's a Medicare health program. We had a 14.5% increase on January 1st, which is more than what we were anticipating this year. So we're requesting $290,000 for that. I can keep going through all the motions if you want. So
Sure, unless somebody
is
has
there questions.
Nate, go ahead.
Yeah, I just given that there's been a lot of conversation, Dan, about pay as you throw, and a lot of appropriate concern from folks in the town. Just for our own edification and for that of the public, can you talk about the 150 and that's sort of a down payment up front? Is that correct? And the idea is that we'd replenish that down the road, or
the 150 in free cash. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's basically, it's given some seed money to the program. If we don't order the bags ahead of time, if we don't have this appropriation, then we don't really have a way to dispose of additional trash beyond a 35-gallon barrel. Again, we're getting a grant for most of the barrels, but we have a match. I think it's like $12 or $13 per barrel that we have to contribute to these, and that will help us buy a barrel for the entire town. So without that, we can't purchase the barrels ahead of time, and we can't supply the bags.
I think just to clarify though, Nate, with your question is, we won't need this again next year, where the majority of this is for the barrels. And once we've got the barrels, we're kind of set.
so this is, in other words, a down payment on what we anticipate to be a net positive for the balance of the town program in the long run.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
John?
So, Dan, are we getting more barrels than we need for the households in town? So when new developments come in, they will get a barrel, or when new developments come along, are they going to have to buy a barrel, or how's that all going to get handled?
So when we buy in bulk, we get a better price up front. So we're going to buy some additional right up front. However, we are going to have more houses come in year after year. So I believe we budgeted $20,000 within the operating budget to purchase more year after year. So we'll see how that goes over time. If we know of any large developments coming in, we can always adjust that figure too. We haven't talked about if we're charging residents who are new to town for an additional barrel either. So that's something that will be discussed in the future.
Okay. So also, what happens when somebody moves?
The barrel stays at the residence. It belongs to the property.
So somehow residents will be aware of that?
We're going to make that
hopefully
part
they won't
of
just do it, but
we're going to make that part of the delivery message. So when the barrels are set to be delivered, we're going to be putting out messaging on multiple ways, including mailings and probably with the barrels, that the barrels are to stay with the property.
okay. And if the last article that's on the warrant, goes through, i.e. the pay-as-you-throw gets voted down, what happens then to this money? Although I understand that's not a binding article on the warrant.
Right, so the select board discussed that on Tuesday night when they reviewed the warrant articles. If Article 22 is approved, it does not bind the select board to eliminate pay-as-you-throw or move in a different direction. The select board has the authority to implement pay-as-you-throw. And we added that as a frequently asked question today to the pay-as-you-throw website.
Okay,
All set, John?
yeah, for now.
Okay, Dennis, go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to be able to at least separate that particular item out of the approvals. Can we take that separately from the other?
Just the 150?
Yeah, that's it. Everything else is
Sure.
okay, just 150.
Okay,
Okay, and the next motion is for the Recreation Enterprise, requesting to appropriate $90,000 from retained earnings. This is for the youth programming, which has really taken off. It's the speed and agility class, and we've basically run out of expense money halfway through the year. That's how popular it's been. So this is a very good thing because with this program, we just charge a 20% administrative fee on top of it, then pay the contractor. So this means that we're doing well with revenue with this program. So we want to make sure they have sufficient funds or expense money to make it through the end of the year.
Dan, just to clarify in my head, so
Yep.
we are bringing in revenue from this program, but they can't use that revenue to pay out the vendor, correct? That's why they need this
That's
extra
correct.
appropriation, but then it'll kind of balance out at the end of the year.
Exactly. So if
Okay.
we maximize this $90,000, we'd get $108,000 in revenue based on this program. So the return
Gotcha.
is worth it.
Okay, anyone have any questions?
No, we're gonna take the other one separate, right?
Yeah, we'll take the 150 separate. So I'll take a motion to recommend Article 2 minus the $150,000 appropriation.
So
There's
moved.
two more.
What?
Sorry, I
Oh,
think
sorry.
there's more items.
There's more
Sorry.
motions.
Okay.
I'm having a little trouble. My screen is way too small to have things up at the same time, so
Okay.
go ahead.
I'm actually share my screen for this one because
Okay.
there's a lot of moving parts on this. I explained this the other night at the select board meeting too. So the third motion here, I'm gonna zoom in, is asking us to appropriate $180,000 to pay off two projects, the Plain Road sidewalk and the Carlisle Road sidewalk, because they came in way under budget. The reason being is that we use Newport mitigation to fund these projects for the most part. So at $95,000 for the Plain Road sidewalk and $85,000 for Carlisle Road, there's no need to borrow this, pay interest costs, pay borrowing costs, and all that. So what we're asking is to pay $166,000 change from free cash. And then we have these two old completed projects here that we're trying to get off our books. One is the engineering master plan for $10,500, which is approved in 2013. And the other one is the Oak Hill and Plain Road infrastructure project for $3,200 from 2020. So the only way to close out these projects is to reappropriate them for a similar project. So this is cleaning up our books and getting rid of a future debt payment and just paying for the projects up front, which is all positive for us. And yeah, if there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Anybody? Dennis, I think you just still have your hand up from last time, or do you have another question?
I gotta put that down. Hold on.
Okay,
All right.
Great.
Then with the fourth motion, same concept. It's just a stormwater enterprise. We have the Pond Brook and Blue Brook culvert design out there. It was originally authorized at $500,000 for debt. It came in under $250,000. So talking with the DPW, we just want to pay this off with our stormwater enterprise retained earnings, so we don't have to borrow for it, again, pay interest and all that. And then the project's completed. And in the future, we want to get into the routine of paying retained earnings for the design of these culverts and then bonding for the construction of the culverts.
questions? Anybody?
I'll renew that motion to approve with the exception of that one item.
Okay,
Second.
so, and I have a second. All right, so by roll call, Dennis,
Aye.
Shelby,
Aye.
John, Brian,
Aye.
Nate,
Aye.
Shinji,
Aye.
John Leffers,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So that passes unanimously. And the final, the $150,000.
Yes, I'd like to just quickly speak on that if I could.
Sure.
So I have to, first of all, I want to credit Mike Edwards, he and both Dan. I had quite a bit of interaction with them, probably a good 2-hour conversation on different dates to try to really ascertain what was driving this thing. And I think I found out, and there's two problems that I have with it. Number one, it appears to be part of a program that's being driven out of Beacon Hill that is deliberately trying to reduce our landfills. And I understand the idea behind it, but I think what I see here is a situation which certain families, I think, are going to be impacted by this. And I simply just don't think it's fair. And I'm not going to support it.
I can understand your sentiment, Dennis, but at the same time, I don't see it as Boston or Beacon Hill actually forcing this. This is sort of a, global issue where there's nowhere to put the trash anymore. So it's trying to take a proactive step to reduce trash. And honestly, Westford is a little high on the amount of trash that they do put out compared to other communities. So I support this fully. I understand that, people may think that it's unfair, but there are ways to reduce your trash. So many other communities have gone this way, and residents have figured out how to reduce their trash. So anyway, Nate?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Not sure I quite understand the origins of a comment like that this is being forced upon us by Beacon Hill. I mean, we're a community who makes our own decisions based on what we think is right for the people of Westford. And the select board, the town manager, the finance committee, and of course, town meeting all follow suit. And so this is not something that's been passed by law or any executive order or anything of the sort. Rather, I think this is an opportunity for municipalities like Westford to be able to contribute towards reducing our overall carbon footprint, very much, which is driven very heavily by the amount of trash we produce as a community. And in addition to that, I said this at a previous meeting, but I'll restate it here. It's unfortunate that we're in this situation, but even more pressing than the overall health of the planet, unfortunately for us right now, is the bottom line of this community in being able to support the budget that we have in moving forward. And I don't see any other alternatives without dire cuts that we've already had to deal with in the school departments, and huge reductions in the number of personnel, much larger class sizes moving forward. And we've talked about that throughout this budget season. This seems like a reasonable yet unfortunate step to be able to take as a community. As someone who has young children, I feel myself that I will end up probably paying more than a 2-person household or a 1-person household might in the long run from this. But I also recognize that it's going to drive some conservation in terms of what we're electing to put out to the curb to go to the landfills in the first place. And I respect that. So it's unfortunate that we're in this situation, but I understand why, and I'm certainly going to be supporting it.
Just one comment.
Sure.
The thing that's driving this is my discussion with Mike Edwards indicated that this is part of a program called Trash Free Massachusetts by 2030. And there's been a deliberate closure of certain landfills across the Commonwealth. It's gone from 7 to 5. I just believe that technology should be able to solve a lot of these problems. I don't like the idea of the draconian way it's being done, and because of that, I'm going to register my objection.
Okay, anything else?
That's it, ma'am.
All right. Can I have a motion to recommend?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. And I'll do roll call. Shelby?
Aye.
John Fryer?
Aye.
Nate?
Aye.
Shinji?
Aye.
John? Leffers?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Dennis?
Nay.
And I'm an aye. So that passes, not unanimous. Next is Article 5, the community preservation.
Is it 10 or 5?
Oh, I have 5. That's not 5.
No,
Anyway,
it's 10.
to
Yeah.
10, community preservation.
Okay,
And
I have one.
do we want to just dive into questions on particular projects?
I'd like to hear an overview maybe of all the projects first.
Okay, Bob, is that something
Quickly.
you're prepared to do?
And Dan, if you want to put
you don't
Dan,
have
if you want to put up the motions document so people have it
Yeah.
in front of them, that would be great.
Okay, I'm Bob Jeffries. I'm the recently impressed chairman of the CPC on the retirement of Tootie Healy, who led this committee from its beginning, I think 2 decades ago. So I'd like to thank Tootie, first of all, for leading us all this time. And what you're looking at is 17 applications for CPC funding, and all CPC funding has to fit into one of 4 categories. There are 3 mandatory categories that we serve. One is community housing, one is historic resources, one is open space acquisition. They all get 10% of whatever money we get in any given fiscal year. And then the bulk of the number, 70%, can be allocated to recreation or any of the other 3 recipients. One category that isn't listed there but is applicable to all is accessibility projects. And you'll see one that came from the 4-H fairgrounds that is purely accessibility driven. We had 17 applications, which is a record for us, which I think is a reflection of how spare many budgets are these days. Of those, we had a total request. Well, we have on our budget, we have $4,274,831.85 going into this. That's after the mandatory 10% are taken out. The mandatory 10% community housing got $365,779. Historic did not get anything because we're paying down on the Rodenbush Historic, and that counts towards that 10%. And open space got $57,566, and that's minus other commitments made in their behalf, which brings us to the requests. And the requests, we met 5 times dealing with these 17 requests. All of them fall into the categories. All of them passed with a unanimous vote of the CPC. One request was reduced. The First Parish Church request was reduced by $450,291 down to $591,000. That's because they presented it in 2 phases, and the first phase isn't scheduled to start until next year. So we thought it better to wait and see the effects of phase 1. And phase 1 is primarily the stabilization and rebuilding of the steeple on First Parish Church. The other one that was affected by amendment was the Forge Pond herbicide attack funding request of $20,000, in that the Conservation Commission wanted us to make sure that Diquit was not used as an herbicide. This is actually an experimental thing they're doing to see the effects, and since Littleton funds half of what goes into Forge Pond, and they are using diclin. It actually works well with the research to see how effective that is in Littleton and how not using it affects the program in Westford. And that, once amended to that, was a unanimous vote also. So if you have any questions about any of these individual ones, some of them, there are people, I think, who are in the audience who can present better than I on exactly what they're asking for. But we can answer any question on any one of these requests.
Okay, thank you. Questions? So I can't really see if anyone else has. Dennis, is that you with your hand up?
Yes, it is.
Go ahead.
I would like to take the First Parish Church request separate from the rest, if it's.
Okay. Do you have any questions on any of them or any other
No,
ones?
no, I just want to, procedurally, I'd like to address
Yep.
that one separately.
Sure. If and nobody else, I have a couple of questions. I was looking at what your the final fund balances will be after funding all of these, and they seem a little low from previous years, but can somebody speak to that?
Yeah, I can answer from our point of view in that we had a record number of requests, all of them legitimate requests. We had the funding. One thing that we operate on is slightly different from how the town operates, in that all of the money requested comes out of what we have on hand now. It also doesn't include the money that most of the three primaries have in reserve. There's the Housing Trust has money in reserve, and others have money in reserve. So yeah, the total at the end is lower, but it's looking to be, I think, 3.5 million, Dan, once we get funded. And we spend money we already have. We do not spend money in fiscal 27 because we haven't received it yet.
You right. So you're
based on what
spending
we
the year
will
before's.
Yeah, we're a
Receipts.
year behind.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
and one more point is these numbers aren't final here. The projected revenue, we still have another quarter of real estate taxes. So this number should be around 2.3, 2.4. And then we have 6 months of investment income as well. So there could be another couple $100,000 there as well. So we could be looking, over $4 million. So for next year, after we pay for our debt and our administrative expenses, we should have quite a bit still for projects.
Okay. Okay. I go ahead, Nate. I'll let you go.
I just have a sort of overarching procedural question, Madam Chair, which is just trying to understand. So the Community Preservation Committee receives the applications, reviews them, makes sure they're compliant and eligible, and then makes determinations based on what they see as fit. Then the Finance Committee and the Select Board also weigh in before town meeting. Is that
Correct.
okay? It just feels like a lot to me as someone, who I understand why we do that for executive branches in the town government and other and the schools as well, at the market level. But this almost feels to me a little bit like the schools, and I respect that this might not be how the Mass General Laws is structured, but there's a committee whose job it is to review these things specifically. And I don't feel as incredibly qualified to make a determination of one of these things, a church versus the Forge Pond herbicidal, having not really participated in that. So just an overall comment that it feels like a lot, and I'm just trying to understand procedurally. Maybe that's required by the law. I see Kristen.
Understood. I'll let Kristen weigh in here.
Sure, thanks. And Dan, if you don't mind just taking down the screen so I can see everyone. So Nate, the Community Preservation Act very strictly and clearly lays out what projects are and are not applicable related to the funding process. So we have reviewed all of these both as staff and with the CPC, and these projects meet those requirements. Also, if there is ever a question, we do get legal opinions. This year, our staff was very proactive to understand the projects up front and get those legal opinions. So really the finance committee's role in this is to, because it is a financial expenditure, provide your recommendation rather than provide your recommendation on the financial expenditures rather than on the specific projects, because those projects do meet such stringent guidelines related to the state law.
Okay, so our what we're doing here is required by Massachusetts general law for this.
So it's Westford's practice that any financial article is recommended or not recommended by the finance committee.
I see. Okay. All right.
Dan, is there anything I missed?
You got it.
All right. Thank you.
I had a couple of other questions unless somebody else has any. So Bob, on the Road and Bush tennis courts, I remember there being some discussion as to who uses the courts now and how many we have in town. Do you happen to remember the answers to those, or if they were answered?
So we have Kyle Fox on the
Oh, okay.
line. Dan, if you could promote Kyle, and Bob, I don't mean to
No,
cut you off, but if you'd like to answer as well.
Good evening. Hi, Christina. So
Hi,
for the
thanks, Kyle.
for the town, we have public tennis courts at Greystone in the northern part of town, and at Jack Walsh in the southern part of town. We also have a court at the Graniteville Ball Field Complex, and these courts at Road and Bush. So total, we have 8 at Greystone, 2 at Jack Walsh, 1 at Graniteville, and 2 at Road and Bush.
Okay. And I'm just curious, so if this project goes through, what are the plans for maintaining the tennis courts in the future?
So we'll maintain them like we do our other courts. We started a program in-house last year. Let me step back. We actually started a program 2 years ago in-house where we did some refurbishment to the Greystone courts, both crack sealing and some remarking of some of the surface courts, just to get a little better at it. Last summer, we took on the challenge of resurfacing the 2 basketball courts at Graniteville. So the crew power washed, cleaned the courts clean because they were really in terrible shape. And so cleaned them, surface prepped, and we recoated both of those courts. And they look amazing now. So we're taking a far more proactive approach than what was done in the past to really try to maintain and keep up with the courts rather than just let them go to pot and look terrible for years until they finally get replaced. All courts have a useful life, and at some point, the new Jack Walsh ones and these, if the proposed courts are done, will need to be replaced. But in the meantime, we want to keep them looking and feeling as good and fresh as we can for the users.
Okay. Good
Will it
answer.
include pickleball, Kyle?
Yeah, so the proposal for Road and Bush is for 2 tennis courts with 8 perpendicular striped pickleball courts laid on top.
Better up your insurance.
Yeah. And Kyle, I assume that this is budgeted in your budget for FY20. Well, I guess it's next year, right? Because it won't happen.
Correct.
But you'll be able to handle the maintenance. I just want to make sure, I mean, just exactly like you said, I want to make sure we don't put in these courts and they just deteriorate over, I don't know how many, I don't know how many years is reasonable life. And then, we're back here again, maybe sooner than we should be.
Yeah, the biggest effort in kind of the work product that I just described is in labor cost and time. So we try and prioritize, and it actually works out better for this kind of work anyway. Our busy time is in the spring and the fall when the youth sports are really engaged, and certainly the spring we're getting everything prepped and ready, and then the grass is growing like crazy, so we're mowing like crazy. Same thing in the fall when we get the the rapid growing seasons and fertilizations and all those other cycles. The summer is kind of a sweet spot where our crew has some availability to do other kinds of projects. And in the past, like we've done the dugout project that we're supported and other types of projects like that. This would fit into that kind of category. The cost of the materials are relatively low, and certainly depending how the courts are used, and the rec commission is always talking about fees. If we were to utilize courts for permitted use, we could use the revolving fund to pay for some of those materials. Currently, we don't, because we don't permit any of the courts at this time. But in the future, that could be a possibility. And Michelle has noted that if the Road and Bush courts get done, she may be able to get an instructor to come and do pickleball lessons, which that would be a revenue to the 650 revolving account.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, if that happens, that would be certainly a plus, but just making the comment that we need to think about replacement, because these aren't going to last forever. So same with like Nutting Field, you know, that was brought up, like we need to have some sort of funding put aside, because CPC won't always, there are different circumstances, as I understand it, as to when they'll fund and when they won't. So I just want to make
Christina,
sure
just
that we have.
just
Yeah,
to
go ahead.
jump in, so in addition to Kyle's maintenance and upkeep to have our assets last as long as possible, we are currently building out an entire capital database of the assets that we have, their useful life, using the tools that Tecton gave us when they were doing the facilities plan. Our parks and recreation and highway and DPW materials assets will all go into that as well.
Great.
And we can then model that out with our finance team of when replacements are necessary, how we're going to fund those, and have that longer view ahead of time. So
Perfect.
I just wanted to add that extra piece in.
Okay, great. No, that's great information. Thank you. Anyone
If
have
I could
anything
add
else,
one
Bob?
thing to
Sure.
that, CPC cannot do maintenance. It's
I didn't
not
know
in their authority, but we can do a complete rebuild when that comes.
Right. Okay, Beth?
Yeah, so CPC just allocates or recommends the funding, right? So what about oversight of all these projects, like as they're ongoing? So I'm assuming the rec department will be oversight, but I'm guessing the things that aren't town buildings or town, like the 4-H and First Parish, like what oversight do we have for those projects if they're funded?
So we have created grant agreements with the outside organizations that have very specific criteria that they must meet. So if they are seeking funds, we need to have the grant agreement signed, and the select board is engaged in that, and the CPC is engaged in that. We then have to see their invoices and their milestones. We are also interacting with their project manager, and if we don't feel that they have an appropriate project manager, having them get that. So we have really tightened up our process related to CPC funds and oversight for outside organizations.
Along those lines, is it like a reimbursable grant, or do they get the money up front?
No, we get the invoices, and I believe, Dan, you can correct me, we pay the vendor
Gotcha.
directly.
Okay.
And the CPC, depending on the project, especially if it's a town project or a very large one like the Road and Bush project, also looks at the flow of money to make sure it fits within the categories that they are allowed to fund.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to make sure that like the historic preservation is happening the way, right? Because that's why you're funding it, is for historic preservation. So we want to make sure that it's like being historically accurate, right?
Yes, and we've been involved with Road and Bush, and some of the stuff that gets done isn't what you would necessarily call historic. If it's an accessibility improvement, that's usually included. If it is equipment necessary to maintain the historic building, that can also be included. So HVAC and plumbing improvements and things like that you wouldn't normally think can be put in it. One example recently was, I think it's 61 Boston Road, is actually a private organization, nonprofit that we funded, and we were watching that to make sure that the money went into one of two categories. It either had to be in the historic category or it had to be housing, and they met both of those criteria.
I had one question about the First Parish Church Meeting House. It looks like the total project that they're going to be doing over the next, I don't know, 7 to so many years is going to be, you know, like 1.7 million, 1.8, somewhere maybe closer to 2 million when they're all said and done. Do you know how much is being contributed by the church?
Good question.
We have not gotten back from them what their fundraising totals are. They're also looking specifically at types of grants that we are pretty confident they'll receive, grants from historic churches, funding under a grant authority that I believe is a private funding source, and the state is also, they are seeking state funding.
But it
And
sounds like, okay. Sounds like the CPC was the first stop though for funding.
yes, that's happened more lately than it used to, but we always look for participation as part of their application.
Mhm.
And a lot of this is going into the second phase, which we didn't fund because we want to see exactly what the participation will be.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions on these?
Looks like there's some answers from Chris Sanders in the chat, in the Q&A.
Okay, so Chris Sanders is saying that First Parish has raised over $200,000 from individual donations.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we expect more, but
Any other questions on these before we take motions to recommend? Okay. So the only thing is Dennis wanted to pull out First Parish Church Meeting House.
Right.
Anybody want to pull out anything else? I'm not seeing it. Okay, Dennis, did you want to?
Yeah, just a comment,
Anything else?
obviously, to support what I did. So, background on this, no, there's no argument that it's a historical building. But as I recall, that the town made a contribution to this same project for an elevator approximately, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago for $1 million, which was a significant contribution at the time. This original request came in at $1 million. It's been reduced to 600,000. I think what my issue with this is I don't mind making a contribution to it, but $600,000 or $591 is way too much. And I think it will primarily benefit a private organization, which happens to be a church. And I think that I have a problem with that. I think we're overdoing this on this one. So I'm going to be rendering an objection to it.
okay, when it comes to the elevator, accessibility to historic buildings is a fundable requirement and makes a lot of sense to us, and it did at the time. The second thing about this building, it's a little bit questionable exactly what the building is, Dennis. It is definitely on the historic register. It is federally and state. The other thing is, it was a public building, a town building up until 1868. Because in Massachusetts, when the building was first built, you had to be in the Puritan congregation. It was not optional in Massachusetts. At one point, I believe later on, I'm not sure of the date, but it was in the late 1700s, they actually divided the church in half and sent half of it down to South Chelmsford to be the Baptist church down there, and that parts of that are still there. The building burned to the ground in 1793, and it was a town building at the time because Massachusetts still maintained after the Revolution that you had to be a member of the then Unitarian Church. That continued up until 1868. So the town built this building. The town used this building. It was the seat of the government of the town until 1868, as far as we can tell. So many of the repairs that we're looking to do are based on rebuilding a town building that was used for town functions, and I would add still is. So this is probably one of the preeminent historic buildings in the town, including we've also funded work on the Methodist Church in Graniteville, and any church can apply for funding as long as it fits within the categories. And this building is kind of the centerpiece of the historic district in the center of town. So we see no issue with this funding, and the amount of money required is actually in line with a building that was always a town building up until 1868. It's a little unique in that regard.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? So I will take a motion to recommend all except the First Parish Church Meeting House project. We'll take that one next.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. And by roll call, Dennis,
Aye.
Shelby,
Aye.
John Fryer,
Aye.
Nate,
Aye.
Shinji,
Aye.
John Luffers,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So those pass unanimously. And I'll take a motion to recommend First Parish Church Meeting House project.
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay, thank you. By roll call, Dennis,
Nay.
Shelby,
Aye.
John Fryer,
Aye.
Nate,
Aye.
Shinji,
Aye.
John Luffers,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
and I'm a nay. So that's 5-2. It passes. Okay, I think that does it for the articles.
I think that was 6-2, Madam Chair.
6-2. Thank you so much for my math.
Thank you.
Old business. Do we have anything under old business anyone needs to bring up? I think we're good. Okay, next, Finance Committee reports. Those are due today. So if you haven't gotten them in, please get them in as soon as possible. I sent an email out earlier with some of the sections that were missing. So if you received that email, you know who you are. Are there any issues? Like, does anyone have any problems or need help or anything?
Get my hand down.
I need some data that I sent an email on to our for health insurance. And Dan, I'll follow up with you. There's some sections that I'll just need some other pieces on that I don't have access to right now.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem, Nate.
All right. Great. I think we're shooting for March 11th to have it printed, published, done, correct? Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
All right.
Hey, just check. I'm checked off, right, Dan? You got mine? Are you all set?
You're good to go, Des.
All right,
Thank you.
Gold star, Dennis.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right,
That means a lot coming from you, Nick.
Well, you know.
All right, next, minutes. Did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes.
And if so, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. And by roll call, Dennis,
Aye.
Shelby,
Aye.
John Fryer,
Aye.
Nate,
Aye.
Shinji,
Aye.
John Luffers.
Unfortunately, I need to abstain from that one.
Okay. Beth,
Aye.
and I'm an I. I am not adding 7701. Thank you, Dan. I'm like not able to do this in my head tonight. Thank you so much. Okay. future meetings, we do not need to meet on that other March date, because there's nothing else we need to do. So I think next meeting will be at town meeting.
Okay. Yeah, just,
All right.
good job, everyone. Everybody worked hard. So,
Yeah.
tip of the hat.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a point of personal privilege to thank you in particular for your work throughout our budget season once again, getting us to this point in a very orderly fashion, and to Dan as well for the incredible amount of work that goes into this, and Kristen and your team. But I think I speak for everyone on the finance committee that we're so appreciative of all the work you put into this, and the extra time, Christina, that you particularly put in as chair.
Here, here. Very
Here,
good.
here.
Well, thank you. And thank all of you too. All right. I think we're good. So motion to adjourn
So moved.
Second.
in a second. Roll call. Dennis,
Aye.
Shelby,
Aye.
John Fryer,
Aye.
Nate,
Aye.
Shinji,
Aye.
John Leffers,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
and I'm an I. Thanks, everyone.
See you at
Bye,
town meeting.
Yeah.
Aye.
Good
Thank you.
night.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you all.